Okay, today we are going to talk about crowdfunding on Qortal. So we'll start by comparing uh, QFund on Qortal to GoFundMe. And so we'll first look at the fees. So on GoFundMe, there is no fee to create a fundraiser. And on Qortal, you have to pay two transaction fees to start a fundraiser, one to start the AT and one to liquidate the AT. So that is two transaction fees, 0.01 each, which is together it's still less than a penny. So it's really not much. And donor contributions to GoFundMe are optional. Yeah, they're optional, but they prompt you for it, and they put a lot of pressure on you to tip them. So yeah, it's zero, and it's also zero on um, Qortal as well for QFund. And then here's the major one though. So uh, when you make a donation on GoFundMe, you have to pay 2.9% plus a fixed 30-cent fee. On Qortal, each donor has to pay, just like before, they have to pay just one transaction fee, which is less than a penny. So there's a significant difference on QFund when it comes to fees. And now we're going to get to some of the more controversial things. So if you're going to do something on GoFundMe and if it's controversial, you're going to have some issues. So a perfect example is the Freedom Convoy in 2022. This was in Ottawa, Canada, otherwise known as the trucker protest. So um, GoFundMe issued a statement uh, to the fundraiser. The first statement they said was that they were monitoring them. Now on QFund, there's no one's going to be monitoring your fundraiser because there's no one in charge of QFund because it's decentralized. So that's one. And then so not only did GoFundMe make one statement, but they made another statement. So um, they refunded all the donations for the Freedom Convoy because after they were monitoring, they didn't like what they saw. So there's that. That's also obviously not an issue with Q Fund. And what do we have here? Okay, so yeah, so GoFundMe has a lot of pressure from governments, including the Canadian government for the trucker convoy protest. And um, so basically donors they were targeted for account closure and for the GoFundMe and the Give Send Go fundraising campaigns that fueled the protests. And also the government had forced crowdfunding websites and payment providers to register with the Financial Transactions and Reports Analysis Center of Canada, otherwise known as FinTrack. This is the government's financial intelligence unit. So here's an article on that. I'll leave that in the show notes. And then what do we have here? Okay, so here's Chrystia Freeland. She is the Deputy Prime Minister of the Canadian government, and she kind of spearheaded this whole campaign from the government to stop the crowdfunding. And here she is talking about using tools against crowdsourcing platforms and making those tools permanent. She also speaks of using tools to apply pressure to financial institutions to spy on their customers. I'll let this play out for about 60 seconds.
We used all the tools that we had prior to the invocation of the Emergencies Act, and we determined that we needed some additional tools. Now, some of those tools we will be putting forward measures to put those tools permanently in place. The authorities of FinTrack, I believe, do need to be expanded to cover crowdsourcing platforms and payment platform and their payment providers. So that is something that we need to do and we will do, and that needs to be in place permanently. Some of these other tools, like the sharing of information between law enforcement and financial services, and the requirement of financial services to be reviewing their accounts proactively, and the immunity from prosecution that we have provided to them in doing this. These are extraordinary measures that we absolutely believe are necessary in the current circumstances that are having an impact. And let me also point out, having a peaceful impact.
Yeah, as many of you saw, it didn't have a peaceful impact. The police involved with this protest were pretty violent against the protesters. A lot of injuries. Um, okay, so on Qortal, this isn't an issue because the way the crowdfunding works on Qortal is through a smart contract, otherwise known as an AT, otherwise known as an automated transaction. And so basically the fundraiser starts this smart contractor, the smart contract, and then the donors pay into the smart contract, and everything is executed on the blockchain. So third-party actors like politicians cannot interfere with this execution. Also, since the donors are not subject to KYC or any other identifying information, um, are by default pseudo-anonymous or completely anonymous if they take simple measures, and they cannot be spied on by anybody. And what else we have here? We have, okay, so James Corbett on the Corbett report goes into full detail on the crowdfunding problems confronting the Ottawa protesters. But he says he doesn't have a clear solution. I will leave this in the show notes as well. Um, but good thing we have Justin Ferrari, also known as Qortal Justin. He has a new book out called Blockchain Use Cases. This is where he proposes QFund as a solution. And not only does Justin propose QFund as a solution, but he uses QFund to cover some of his expenses for writing this book. So I will leave a link to his book also in the show notes. And next we will have a look at QFund on Qortal. Okay, so I'm on Qortal Hub and I will go to apps. And QFund is on the apps dashboard. It's a default app, so it's just right here. So I'll click on that. Okay, so first we'll look at how to start a QFund. So yeah, you title the crowdfund, you describe it, you put your goal, how many court you want, and then you pick the day you want it to end. You can add files, and you can put a pretty lengthy description in there as well. So it's all right here, and you could also add an image, a cover image, which will show when it's displayed down here. And so since we just spoke about Justin's QFund, we'll look at Justin's QFund. Okay, here it is. It's still active, I believe. Yes, it is. Still has 9 days left, but he has already passed his goal. Now, at this point, basically all Q funds, they get paid out to the fundraiser whether they reach their goal or not. That's just how it works for now. And so he's already did, but as you see, he has pretty good description there. He reached his goal. If I wanted to donate to it, I would just do that right here. You can just have to put any amount you want, as long as you can cover it. You can look at the donor details right here, as you can see here. So yeah, he's got quite a few donors here. And it's basically a registered name and an address. And so it's pseudo-anonymous. I mean, there's not much information on the donors here unless they're claiming their name out in public. This is all pretty anonymous here. So this is something that Christia Freeland cannot stop. I mean, even if someone came to my house and shut down my node, this information is available on everyone else's node. So it's here to stay. It's unstoppable, and the governments are just going to have to deal with it. That's just how it is. Okay, so I'm going to exit out of here. And so let's exit out of, let's go back to the home page, which is up in the upper left-hand corner right here. And you'll see there's some other Q funds here. There's one to help a developer. There's one to help onboard Estonians onto Qortal. Here we can look at another one here's Justin's original Q fund, the one that is already closed, but as you see, he reached his goal of 5,000. I mean, Justin's gonna reach his goals because he's pretty popular in the Qortal community. He has a good reputation. And see, that's another thing too. If you do start a Q fund, you're going to have to go into the groups and into the Q chat, and you're going to have to and let people know that you have a fund open and that you need donors, and you have to let people know. Or if you want someone from outside of Qortal to donate to your fund, you're going to have to bring them into Qortal. That's just, yeah, you can't use Q fund as a donor or as a fundraiser unless you're on Qortal. And so you'll see this is closed. You can't donate to it anymore, but the donor details are still available. And as you can see, they're mostly anonymous. Now, if you want to be public, you can. You can see here's my donation right here. It's public. And this is not a controversial fund, so I don't mind being public on this one. So there's that. And so there's a look at Q Fund. Okay, so your fund has ended and the court you achieved has gone to your wallet. And chances are what you need to use those funds for won't be available in the Qortal economy. So what you can do is you can trade that court for a coin that will get you to your local currency. So how you do that is you go to the Q Trade app. So what you do is you hit the plus sign on the left, which gets you to the default apps. You go to Q Trade up here. And this will allow you to sell your court for another coin. Now, if you want a coin that's going to get you to your local currency, uh, your best three options are Litecoin, Doge, or Bitcoin. So let's say you choose Litecoin. What you'll do is first you want to check, you want to see what the market rates are for court at the time and decide how much you want to sell your court for in terms of Litecoin. And then you go to sell court. You create a new sell order. And then you sell the court for the price you want to sell it for. And then once you create that order, you'll have to wait for someone to buy your order. And you will receive that Litecoin. And then once you receive that Litecoin, you can go up here and you can send that Litecoin to your crypto account. So your crypto account could be Coinbase or Gemini or Kraken or Binance or wherever you're keeping wherever you do your crypto trading at. And so you can trade it for your local currency there. And then you can use your local currency to buy the things that you originally raised the funds for. Okay, so thanks for watching.